So which tank should make it into Rivals? Yo, this is Goji Boo. Just wanted to throw out another video and more of a discussion type of post. So I want to do more of these type of videos where it's more of an off-the-cuff type of less edited deal, and I will let you guys know I'm going to go back to doing character pitches on this channel starting next week. Just got a little bit backed up as far as work and everything. So next week I should start up with that whole DC thing again. I do want to start doing a Pokemon one as well. I've actually started script writing for that already, along with the Justice League video too. So for this video, I just kind of wanted to do which tanks might want to make it into Rivals, and I mean, I brought 5 with me today, but in all honesty, there is no like shortage of options as far as what tanks to put in this game. I mean, again, just off the top of the dome here, I wrote a couple, and again, these are just purely based off of what again I've able to workshop. It's nothing like super in depth. I don't have the movesets planned out for all these guys, but again, like off the top of my head, I got War Machine, I got Armor, who I think already leaked based off what a lot of people told me in the comments, like, you know, Captain Marvel, Luke Cage, Colossus, Medusa, Arnim Zola, Sentinel and Nimrod, Sabretooth, Juggernaut, Thanos, MODOK. I mean, the main issue you're running into with this, I think, is that there's not really a good amount of female tank rep, but I mean, again, I'm struggling to find some, but either way, I'm sure I'll find some eventually. But I mean, again, for the 5 I brought, I just kind of wanted to talk about them, how they could help out the game, what I think they might play like, and I did end up doing a moveset for, I think, 4 of these guys. I've done a moveset for all these guys, I think, except maybe one of them. So I do want to kind of talk about that, but again, I'm not going to give like a whole rundown of the moveset, just kind of what I feel like they should do, and again, just hopefully open up the video to discussion. So the first and most wanted tank I have is ManThing, and this is a very underrated character, and I think he probably has the best shot out of all these guys to make it in all honesty. ManThing could be a really cool tank. I do love the idea of playing with that whole fear thing as a status. I have seen it implemented in other games like Dota, where if you do get affected by fear, you do just kind of run back to base. You don't worry about, you know, any pathing or anything like that. If you run into something, your character will run around it. But I mean, having something like that in the game to where if you get hit enough by ManThing, you just automatically start running back to your spawn for a few seconds. I mean, that's pretty useful, especially because it's not super strong. I mean, the whole thing with the fear status is that they're still running while they're, you know, while they can't act at all. But again, they are running. That's the only thing they can do, and it's out of their control. So again, it's a really cool thing to utilize as far as a tank, as far as any character really, and ManThing, it kind of fits really well with him. Again, the whole he who knows fear thing. So I mean, I guess they catch fire instead, so maybe instead of a slow or something where they run back, maybe they could run back and catch on fire for a little bit, or maybe they run back and then they you know, like spontaneously combust for a couple seconds to get some fire damage, or maybe they remove the fear thing entirely. Maybe it's just a catching fire thing at a certain point. There's no running involved, and maybe the fear building up is just what eventually causes them to combust. But either way, ManThing would be really cool, and again, he is a really cool character in the whole Marvel universe. I feel like he is a admittedly poor substitute for Swamp Thing. I do like him, but again, I feel like he kind of loses a lot of his aura when you start getting into his actual backstory. But again, ManThing would be really tight. I think they could also do some stuff with like plant matter. I don't think there's a lot of plant like altering characters when it comes to Marvel. I know there's some, and I know there's that one mutant that's like not a mutant sometimes that has plant powers, but aside from that, not a lot of characters can really like manipulate it besides Groot, and I don't think Mantis even had plant manipulation. I think that's just exclusively a Rivals thing. But if ManThing could build like not walls like Groot, but maybe like vines that slow people down, or maybe he can choose between the different you know, greenage that he throws out. Maybe he could choose between flowers that like maybe boost your allies, or maybe thorns that deal damage, like some crowd control, or maybe he could even do something like Venus flytraps that snap at people over a couple seconds, so maybe like a turret type deal in an area. You could do so many different things with ManThing though. And I mean, as far as costumes, again, it's kind of a no-brainer. There's not really a lot to go with as far as ManThing for his designs, but you could definitely do some fun, I mean, like Halloween stuff or event-type deals. The original skins they could do for this character would be super kick-ass, man. Again, the Rivals team always really cooks with their costumes and stuff usually, so I feel like their design for ManThing would be great. But not only that, I mean, their costumes that they'd come up with on top of that would be really cool, and again, the guy really needs it. The only difference he really has are designs, and I feel like that's kind of a cheap out when when it comes to selling cosmetics. If you're selling somebody a little bit of a different design, maybe it's got lines on the shoulders instead of in the groin, like how one artist draws it. But either way, I digress. I think ManThing would be a really good pick. Then the next biggest pick I got is Drax as a melee brawler. I'm surprised he's not already in the game. He's one of the first pitches I did because, again, I'm not the biggest Drax fan, and again, looking back into his whole history in the comics, there's not really a lot to work with as far as power set and everything, and even as far as the movies. But again, just his personality based off the Dave Bautista performance, a like battle hardened, super like battle hungry warrior that's lost everything. It's a really good angle to play the guy with, and I think that that's probably a good angle that Rivals could keep as they implement him. I think absolutely keep him on the Guardians, keep that as something that's pivotal to his whole backstory there, even if he is like a variant or something. I don't know if they mentioned anything about Drax and Rivals. I think Quill has like 1 or 2 voice lines, but either way, a tank that's just diving in like with his dual knives, kind of focusing on building up a heat or like an intensity meter, something like that. Again, just kind of diving into fights head first, utilizing what Drax would normally do, and having a tank that can dish out a little bit more damage while maybe being a little bit squishier. So maybe make him a little bit less beefy than the other tanks in the category, but maybe make him, you know, have lifesteal or some sort of sustainability so that he wants to be in those fights and he's gaining a bonus effect from being in those fights so often, so that he's not just, you know, fight, a constant burden to healers. Yes, he's a frontline, yes, he's a distraction, but again, if you give him that sustainability, he could become a more long-term problem that the team has to deal with. And in my original pitch, I had him have a taunt, because there's a character, again, Dota is where I took a lot of my inspiration from. There is a ability I gave him that's like a taunt, where it's like an AoE thing. He does a call and everybody is forced to attack him for a couple of seconds. I think that is a perfect ability to give Drax a taunt like that. It perfectly fits his character, perfectly fits what he does. I think he would really benefit from something like that. And again, he's just a really cool character all around. As for his ultimate, again, I think it would just involve him maybe a buff to himself, maybe a bonus lifesteal effect, maybe he gets bonus damage or something like that. I think a self buff would be the most beneficial thing. I think Drax would definitely be a selfish tank, and that's kind of how I lump up my tanks, and I guess it's kind of a side tangent. I categorize them into selfish and selfless tanks. So a selfless tank is the one like the Magneto, like the Hulk, who's going to want to get in front of somebody, whose main game plan is usually how can I prevent this damage from getting over to somebody else, which again, I know is normally a tank's plan, but when you play somebody like Venom, as opposed to, again, Hulk or Magneto, I'm sure you can see the difference. Venom is much more focused on get to the back line, do some damage, get back out, let me lick my wounds, let me let the supports help me, and then, you know, I'll get back to my thing. That is a selfish tank. So I have the most amount of hours on Venom. I love playing the selfish tank gameplay style. I feel like it's not something I normally get to do, besides characters like, you know, Roadhog and stuff like that. But either way, Drax would be a great addition to that. Maybe not diving the back line, maybe he'd be more of a brawler, so if a magic rushes your guys' front line, Drax could be right there to kind of put a stop to it. And maybe if he can't like directly outfight her, he can at least keep her at bay or have something to keep her damage focused on him instead. Then the third and probably most interesting pick on my list is Moonong Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I actually just thought of this yesterday as I was making a list for top 10 tanks I wanted to see, and for the longest time I was struggling with what to do with this character and how they might implement her. I was thinking, hey, maybe like a cloak and dagger type deal where they can swap between back and forth. I mean, I think Lunella, which is Moonong Girl, is half inhuman or something along those lines. I don't know if that's been retconned since. I think she has a power where she can swap like her personality between, or her consciousness between herself and the dinosaur. So I was thinking of maybe like a cloak and dagger type deal, but I think a Vanguard for them would be awesome, just because again, you wouldn't be swapping the conscious, but the pitch like would work like this essentially. Devil Dinosaur would be the main character you're kind of playing as, quote unquote, with Moonong Girl riding him, and then whenever you do want to dismount or whenever you've taken a good bit of damage, it wouldn't really work like a diva mech, or again, maybe it would. Maybe once he takes enough damage, Devil Dinosaur dips, and then it's just Moonong Girl for a little bit on her rollerblades, utilizing her weapons, and an aged up Moonong Girl, of course, because she's 9 in the comics, so I don't know if they want a 9-year-old running around and getting blasted by Sentry or Adam Warlock or whoever whoever else gets added into this later. But maybe it's like a Hulk thing or like a Diva thing where Devil Dinosaur leaves, comes back for a little bit, and Devil Dinosaur would be the ultimate, but maybe just work in something like that. But I did have an idea where Moon Girl kind of leaves Devil Dinosaur to go do her own thing, so maybe Moon Girl can be more of a support whenever you play as her, but whenever she dismounts, she gets different skills. So essentially Light Cloak and Dagger, but I mean 2 different movesets entirely with 2 different health pools that are independent of each other. I mean, again, Devil Dinosaurs wouldn't be independent of Moon Girl, but either way, a character that works like that, where it's kind of a dual class, where the one that's riding the tank is a support, the one that is, you know, mainly doing the damage mitigation, mainly working on the front lines, that's the tank. And then whenever you jump off Devil Dinosaur, kind of just roams around in like a medium range, dealing damage, utilizing skills, like a low-level CPU takes control. So again, you can't really blame it for any stupid mistakes. Again, it would probably be programmed to not use the ultimate, but again, if a CPU utilizes the ability and it like goes on cooldown and it's some dumb thing, again, you're gonna be mad about it, but it's a CPU, you can't be too mad about it, and you can suspend your disbelief to be like, okay, well, it was the dinosaur or whatever. Again, just, which would again just be a really cool angle. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that for a tank before, but this would be a really cool first, and I feel like would just be a really unique character to play as. Then for the 4th pick here, I got Lockjaw. Lockjaw, it could be some more Inhuman rep, absolutely. And I feel like I said this before in my top 10 tanks that, you know, should be added, but a animal character in any of the classes is a slam dunk as far as, again, just marketability, as far as getting people interested in the character. Again, who really knew who Jeff was until he ended up getting into Rivals, man? That like skyrocketed his popularity. Again, I knew who Jeff was prior because, you know, was involved in some comic stuff, but again, I'm talking about the more general audience, more mainstream audience, which again, I feel like a lot of them aren't really savvy or privy to Lockjaw. I feel like a lot of them don't know he's running around out there, and he's a really cute, really interesting character. I do like his moveset. A teleporting dog is really cool. And just added to that, the fact that he's absolutely massive and could work so well as a tank, just he was made for this game, dude. So I'm thinking absolutely a more mobile tank, one that could kind of teleport, kind of just move around like magic using those portals, pop in, pop out. Obviously wouldn't bring any summons with him. I mean, there's a angle where he absolutely could. There is an angle where he teleports back and then brings an Inhuman guard with him or something. So, you know, I believe Lockjaw is royalty on the Inhuman side, but, or at least he's, you know, working with the royal family. So I think it could be in character if he brings like a guard back with him, but I don't know. Again, I think that's just making it too similar to Magic. I just kind of got lost in the sauce of making that work, but either way, also just really funny, Lockjaw being royalty with that family. But I mean, a teleporting tank that could kind of bark and open up these portals, and then if somebody shoots a projectile, it like bounces back at them, kind of like what Spot ended up doing in Spider-Verse, but again, just a totally, again, in your control version of that. I don't know if it would be like a shield that he opens up in front of him and then it deflects, or maybe it just, again, maybe not deflect, maybe it just goes to a totally different dimension. Maybe he just negates the projectiles by sending them somewhere else, but either way, Lockjaw would be really tight. I know for a team ultimate, I think something where he relocates his team to him, or maybe where he moves to like a specific area, a global teleport would be really good. Maybe make it so that it's not a crazy high cooldown, but maybe so that it charges up a little bit faster, since he is teleporting so frequently. Maybe make it so that it's not this huge big thing where, like, you know, he does have to constantly build up to it, so that you are encouraged to kind of be moving with your team constantly and not afraid to utilize your mobility stuff. Then lastly, the last tank I brought is going to be Sandman, and he is a construct and quicksand themed tank. Sandman is absolutely one of the most unique bruisers they got in the Marvel Universe, and again, he's really high on my list, but again, I do have others that I do want in the game as well. And just because you see someone here doesn't mean I think, like for instance, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, or Drax or Lockjaw should make it in over Thanos or Juggernaut or Sabretooth. I really want to see those characters just as much. Again, I just get so excited seeing the potential for these characters, how they could utilize their powers, player expression. Sandman is a really unique character as far as rogues, as far as Marvel in general goes. I'm really surprised he fights Spider-Man so frequently, considering how strong his power could really end up being. But again, working with a guy who could make constructs, again, make a mace out of his hand, make hammers out of his other other hand, shoot sand out like as a primary fire thing, use his like interlock his hands and make a big sand shield. Again, you could just go really cartoony, really comic with this guy, and it wouldn't break the immersion because again, he has sand. He can mold his stuff to whatever he likes, and nobody's really gonna bat an eye. It's not really gonna look too corny or anything like that. And again, I feel like a lot of the people that are playing Marvel Rivals because of the art style are willing to suspend their disbelief, but I mean, again, just thinking of it right now as far as how that would work as programming him, I know they wouldn't program the actual like individual grains of sand, but a Sandman that has like stuff constantly just going off of him, unless they find some way to make it like look really cool, I can imagine it's kind of going to be a hassle to work with this guy. There was a pitch I saw floating around of Sandman and then Deadpool as well, kind of leaning into that whole angle with him as a Vanguard rep. Sandman and Deadpool kind of losing limbs or losing, you know, survivability, quote unquote, as the match goes on. Sandman kind of getting his arms blown off. They kind of come back as sand after a little bit. Same thing with Deadpool, but you know, much more real flesh and everything. But man, yeah, that is just such a, that's definitely an interesting angle, but I like to keep my stuff more grounded for my approaches. So putting that on devs, like programming, hey, you know, make sure that if it hits this part of the hitbox that, you know, it sends this off, and that you have this much damage reduction applied to you at that time, and that you get this damage amount back as your thing grows back. And yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know how the hitboxes work in Rivals. I'm not going to pretend to know, you know, what that might even look like from a dev standpoint. I just know that might be too much. But again, you could definitely work this guy in without even having to go down that angle. You could absolutely have him do constructs, and again, the quicksand thing is also a really fun angle to utilize. You just have him kind of like snap and send out a quicksand little pit, slows people down. Maybe it gives him movement speed, or maybe it gives him bonus health because he's also made of sand, and maybe it helps him reconstruct his form. And as I'm talking about this, maybe it's a passive. Maybe he leaves little patches of sand when he gets a kill or when he deals damage, and he could pass over them and get some health back, like kind of as a self-sustained thing. So I mean, again, there's plenty of interesting ways to work around it, and I feel like the Marvel Rivals team definitely does keep their head on a swivel when it comes to ways to approach balancing the game and putting characters in. I mean, just look at evidence of the Adam Warlock buff as the newest thing. I was speculating for months how to buff that guy, and then again, it's just an answer as simple as let him crit, and then that helps with his healing. But either way, that's all the ideas I got as far as tanks for right now. I mean, again, I have plenty more, so if you guys want to hear more about and some more potential tanks that should make it into Rivals, by all means let me know. I do want to do more off the cuff type of videos like this, where it's more just my raw, unfiltered thoughts. I feel like I could talk a lot longer when it's like this, and I feel like people get more content that way. But either way, if you guys want to see more videos like this, if you guys want to see more recommendations, whatever the case is, by all means let me know. But otherwise, peace.